Let's go over number 1351, count negative numbers in sorted matrix. So we have a sorted matrix. Given m times n matrix grid, which is sorted in non-decreasing order, so that means it's decreasing, not increasing, which means decreasing, both row-wise and column-wise, return the number of negative numbers in the grid. So we want to count how many negative numbers there are in our matrix. And if you look at our example 1, we have our matrix. So we have a matrix looking like this, and it decreases column-wise, so 4, 3, 2, and -1, and it decreases column-wise. So if you look at our column, 4, 3, -1, so column, and row-wise, column-wise. And we want to loop through our grid and then check how many negative numbers there are, right? So we're gonna go through all the numbers and count how many are negative. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we have a total of 8 negative numbers. And if we check our output, we have 8. If you guys find this helpful, make sure you guys like and subscribe. Thanks. Okay, now let's go over our solution. So we make our function which takes in a grid, which is a matrix. And I'm going to make a variable count, and this is going to count number of negative numbers, and I'll return that count. And we want to loop through our matrix, right? So let's make a for loop for let I equals 0, I is less than grid.length, because we want to iterate through all the rows and increment by 1. And what I'm going to do is, since we know that the number goes from highest to lowest, I want to start looping from the back, because once I hit a positive number, I know that I don't have to loop through the whole row anymore. So I'm going to use another for loop, and this time it's going to be j is equal to grid at index I dot length minus 1, and j is gonna be greater than or equal to 0. And we're going to decrement because we're starting from the end of the array. And I'm gonna check if grid index I, index j is less than 0. So if the number is a negative, I'm going to increase count by 1. And else, if it's not, if it's positive, I'm going to break out of the loop so that I don't have to loop through the current row anymore. So if I give some comments, iterate through row, iterate through numbers in row, starting from the lowest number, which is at the end of the array. And if the current number is less than 0, meaning if it's negative, I'm going to increase count by 1. And once we hit a positive, we're just going to loop out so that we don't have to waste our time iterating through the rest of the array. And if we check our results, okay, this should be j. So we have 8, 0, 3, and 1. We have 8, 0, 3, and 1, and there we go. This is our solution. Okay, let's go over our code one more time just to get a better understanding. It's good to know how things work. So we declare a function which takes in grid, which is in matrix, and we made our count variable, which is going to check number of negative numbers. And when we are done with our nested for loop, we're gonna return our count. So the first for loop goes through the row, and the second one goes through the numbers in the row, starting from the back. Because when we have array, we will use example 1 again because I think it better illustrates the problem. Okay, we have a matrix, right? So we know that it's decreasing, so it goes high to low, and we start iterating from the back because we obviously want negative numbers, right? And negative numbers are going to be at the back of the row. So we iterate through our row, we'll look at our first one, and we check, is the last number a negative number? If it is, we're going to increment our count by 1. Is the second to last negative number? If it's not, and it is not, right? 2 is not a negative number. What we do is we just break out the loop. So we don't have to iterate through the rest of the numbers, and that's gonna save us some time. So we go to our second row and we check, is this a negative number? Yes. Is this a negative number? No. And we just loop out because we don't have to check 2 and 3 because we know that it's gonna be positive. Positive. And we go to our next row. Is negative to negative? Yes. This is a negative also, negative. And is this a negative? No. We loop out, we break out from the loop. And the last one, is this a negative? Yes. Negative, yes, negative, and negative. So if you add all these up, 4, 2, 1, 1, that's going to be 8, right? And we get 8 our result.